They laughed when my dying grandfather gave me a check. The next morning, the bank called, and I became the punchline they'd never see coming. Christmas dinner at the Johnson estate always felt like a performance. Crystal glasses caught the chandelier light. My mother, Patricia, adjusted her pearls between bites of prime rib. My father, Richard, swirled his scotch, already calculating. I sat at the far end of the table, the forgettable daughter. No executive title like my brother. No doctor husband like my sister. Just Susan, 34, divorced, working at a nonprofit nobody asked about. Grandpa Edward sat at the head, thinner than last year. His hands spotted with age but steady. After dessert he pulled out 3 envelopes. "I want to give you something while I can still see your faces," he said. My mother's eyes lit up. My father leaned forward. Grandpa handed them theirs first. They tore them open in unison. Silence. Then my mother's laugh, sharp, performative. "Dad, this isn't even signed correctly. Did you forget how to write a check?" My father squinted at his. $250,000? "Eddie, this routing number doesn't match your bank." "Senile," my mother whispered to him, loud enough for me to hear. "We'll need to talk about power of attorney." They folded the checks like children's drawings, smiling indulgently at Grandpa as if he'd tried his best. He turned to me. "Susan." His hand shook slightly as he passed me the envelope. Our fingers touched. His skin paper-thin and warm. "You'll know what to do," he said quietly. I didn't open it. Not at the table. My mother glanced over. "Let me guess. Did Dad give you Monopoly money too?" My father chuckled. "Better frame it, Susie. Might be worth something as a memory." I tucked the envelope into my purse and said nothing. Because that's what I'd learned to do in this family. Stay small. Stay silent. Let them talk over me, around me, through me. But as I helped Grandpa to his chair afterward, he squeezed my hand. "They stopped seeing me a long time ago," he whispered. "But you still do." I didn't understand then. I would the next morning, when the bank called and proved that some jokes have punchlines that rewrite everything. "What would you have done in her place?" I didn't sleep. The envelope sat on my nightstand, glowing in the dark like evidence. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard my mother's laugh. Senile. My father's dismissive chuckle. Monopoly money. 3 a.m. I gave up. Turned on the lamp. Opened it. The check was written in Grandpa's careful script. $500,000. Made out to Susan Marie Johnson, the one who stayed. My hand started shaking. Not at the amount, at the inscription. 7 words that said everything he'd never spoken aloud. Every Sunday I'd spent at his house while my siblings were too busy. Every holiday I'd asked about his stories instead of his stock portfolio. Every time I'd listened instead of waited for my turn to ask for something. He'd been keeping score. I set the check down. Stared at my phone. It was too early to call the bank, too late to call anyone who'd understand. At 9 a.m. my phone rang. "Miss Johnson? This is First National Bank. We're calling to confirm your deposit." My heart stopped. I didn't deposit anything yet. "Your grandfather initiated an automatic transfer yesterday evening. The funds have cleared. $500,000 is now available in your account." The room tilted. "Miss Johnson? Are you there?" "Yes." My voice cracked. "Can I ask something? Did you process checks for Patricia and Richard Johnson as well?" A pause. Keyboard clicking. "Those checks were returned. Insufficient signature authority. The account they were drawn from was closed in 2019. I sat down on the floor, phone pressed to my ear. "Ma'am, is there anything else we can help?" "No. Thank you." I hung up. Stared at the wall. Grandpa hadn't made a mistake. He'd made a choice. Their checks were theater. Mine was real. He'd tested us. Tested who'd laugh at an old man's confusion, and who'd simply say thank you. Who'd mock him behind his back and who'd honor him regardless. They'd failed spectacularly. And I, invisible, forgettable Susan, had inherited everything that mattered. Not just money. Proof. Should she tell them the truth, or let them keep laughing? I drove to Grandpa's house without calling first. He was in his chair by the window, the same spot where we'd shared 1,000 silent afternoons. A book lay open in his lap, but he wasn't reading. He was waiting. You knew, I said from the doorway. He looked up. No surprise in his eyes. Just quiet certainty. Sit, Susan. I did. My legs felt hollow. The bank called. I continued. My check cleared. Theirs didn't. I know. You set them up. No. His voice was gentle but firm. I gave them the same chance I gave you. They chose how to respond. He reached for a folder on the side table. Slid it toward me. Open it. Inside, years of evidence. Voicemails transcribed. Dad, just checking your health. By the way, about revising the will. Emails from my father. We should discuss your care options and asset protection. Birthday cards from my mother, still sealed, returned to sender because she'd sent them to his old address. The one he'd left 3 years ago. The one she'd never updated because she'd never asked. My throat tightened. 8 months, Grandpa said quietly. That's how long since they visited. But you came every Sunday. You asked about my day, not my portfolio. You brought soup when I had pneumonia, not a hospice brochure. So the checks were exactly what they deserved. Theirs were drawn on an account I closed the day your grandmother died. The day they asked me, at her funeral, about expediting probate. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger. Colder than that. Clarity. They'll find out, I whispered. About my check. Yes. They'll come after me. Probably. What do I do? Grandpa leaned forward, his eyes sharp despite his frail frame. You decide what kind of person you want to be. The money's yours legally, morally, completely. But what you do with it, that's the real inheritance. I looked at the folder, at the evidence of years of conditional love. Something shifted inside me. Not rage, something quieter, more deliberate. I'd spent 34 years being invisible. Maybe it was time they finally saw me. Was his test cruel or fair? My mother called 3 days later. Honey, the strangest thing, Dad's check bounced. Did yours? I was sitting in my car outside the bank, paperwork for a new trust account in my lap. I just transferred every dollar into an untouchable fund. Mine bounced too, I lied smoothly. Must have been a mistake on his part. Her sigh of relief was audible. Oh, thank God. I'd hate for him to waste money on silly games. You know how he gets confused. My grip tightened on the phone. Though honestly, she continued, it's probably for the best. He needs that money for care. Your father and I have been talking. We think it's time to move him into a facility. Somewhere we can manage his finances properly. He seems fine to me. Susan, you're sweet, but you don't understand these things. Dementia is progressive. That check fiasco proves it. I said nothing. Anyway, we're having dinner Sunday. You should come. We need to discuss next steps. I'll be there. I hung up and sat in silence. Then I called my lawyer. Sunday dinner was theater. My mother wore her concerned daughter face. My father had printed articles about elder care facilities, the expensive kind. We found a beautiful place in Connecticut, Mom said, sliding a brochure across the table. Full medical staff, asset management services. He doesn't want to leave his house, I said quietly. He doesn't know what he wants anymore, my father cut in. That's why we need to act now, before he does something really foolish. Like give his money to someone who actually loves him, I thought. She smiled satisfied. I excused myself to the bathroom and texted my lawyer. Move forward with everything. Now, they thought I was weak. Compliant. The daughter who'd never fight back. They'd spent years training me to be invisible. They never considered I might have been learning. Watching. Waiting. Should she warn them what's coming? Or let them discover it themselves? Grandpa asked me to come over on a Wednesday. Not our usual Sunday. When I arrived, he was standing barely but standing by his desk. A banker's box sat open beside him. I need to show you something before they try to take it. Inside the box. A decade of documentation. Letters from my mother. Dad, we're worried about you living alone. Have you considered updating your will? We want to make sure you're protected. Translation. Make sure we're protected. Voicemails from my father transcribed and dated. 47 calls in 2 years. 46 mention money, inheritance, or securing your legacy. One asked how he was feeling. Email chains between my parents I wasn't supposed to see. Subject line: Dad's portfolio strategy. My hands trembled as I read. How did you get these? Your mother CC'd me by accident last year. She forgot I still check email. His smile was sad. They were planning this before your grandmother was even buried. Discussed selling the house, liquidating assets, moving me somewhere manageable. I found a photograph at the bottom. Grandpa and Grandma at my college graduation. I was between them laughing. My parents were visible in the background on their phones. You were the only one who looked at us that day, he said softly. Really looked. Why didn't you tell me? Because I needed to be sure. He sat down heavily. Money changes people, Susan. I had to know. If I gave you everything, would you become them? The weight of that hit me. The checks weren't about money, I whispered. No. They were about character. He pulled out one more document. A letter sealed, addressed to Patricia and Richard Johnson. This is for after, he said. When they discover what I've done. When they come for you. What does it say? The truth. That they had 20 years to choose love over greed. That every Sunday you were here they weren't. That the real inheritance was time. And they spent it calculating instead of caring. I held the letter, feeling its weight. They'll hate me, I said. They already don't see you. Now they'll have to. Outside, a car pulled into the driveway. My mother's Mercedes. Grandpa's eyes met mine. It's starting. Is the truth a weapon or a mercy? I left through the back door before my mother could see me. 2 days later, I met my younger brother Jamie at a coffee shop downtown. We hadn't spoken in months. He'd always been the black sheep. No Ivy League degree. No corporate ladder. Just a teacher making $40,000 a year, drowning in student loans. Did Grandpa give you a check too? I asked. Jamie stirred his coffee. Yeah, Christmas. I didn't even try to cash it. Why not? He shrugged. Figured it was Dad playing some weird mind game. Or Grandpa losing it. Either way, I didn't want to be part of the drama. He looked at me. Did yours clear? I hesitated. Then nodded. His eyes widened. Holy shit. How much? Enough. And Mom and Dad's? Bounced. Jamie sat back processing. Then he started laughing. Not cruel, just exhausted. Of course. Of course he'd do that. You're not angry? Angry. He shook his head. Susan, I stopped playing their game years ago. When I chose teaching over law school, Dad told me I was wasting my potential. Mom stopped introducing me at parties. You think I expected anything from Grandpa's will. But there was no bitterness in his voice. Just resignation. He gave me something better anyway, Jamie continued quietly. He told me once, after Dad didn't show up to my classroom ceremony, that wealth isn't what you inherit. It's what you build when no one's watching. My throat tightened. I want to give you some, I said. From my inheritance. Susan, no. Not charity. Not guilt. Because you're the only one in this family who never asked Grandpa for anything. I leaned forward. Because you loved him without a calculator. Jamie's eyes glistened. I can't take your money. It's not mine. It's ours. We're the ones who stayed human. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, what are you going to do when they find out? I don't know yet. You're stronger than you think, he said. You always have been. You just let them convince you otherwise. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel alone. We weren't the golden children. We were the invisible ones. But maybe that meant we were the only ones who learned to see. Can revenge coexist with love? Or does choosing one destroy the other? My mother found out on a Thursday. The bank manager, her tennis partner, mentioned it casually over lunch. Your daughter's trust fund transfer was impressive. $500,000 is no small amount. She arrived at my apartment at 7 p.m. No call. Just pounding on the door. I opened it. She pushed past me, my father right behind her. You lied to us. Her face was crimson. Your check cleared. Yours cleared. Yes. And you said nothing? You laughed at him, I said quietly. At the table. You called him senile. He is senile, my father shouted. And you manipulated him. Something inside me cracked. I visited him every Sunday for 10 years. When did you last ask him how he was feeling? My mother's eyes filled with tears, the tactical kind. How can you say that? We're your parents. We raised you, sacrificed for you. You ignored me. And this is how you repay us? By stealing your father's inheritance. It wasn't yours to inherit. She changed tactics. Softened. Reached for my hand. Sweetheart. We're family. Families share. You don't need all that money. Let us help you invest it properly. I almost broke. Almost handed her a check just to make it stop. To return to invisible Susan who never caused problems. Then I remembered the hospital 3 years ago. Emergency appendectomy. I'd called them. They'd said they'd come. They never showed. Get out, I whispered. Susan. Get out. My father stepped forward. Will Sue. You coerced a dying man. He's not dying. And he recorded everything. Their faces went white. I closed the door. Locked it. Slid down to the floor. And finally let myself cry. Was she cruel or finally strong? Grandpa died 3 weeks later. Peacefully in his chair, book in his lap. I was the one who found him. The funeral was small. Jamie sat beside me in the front row. My parents sat 4 rows back. Grandpa's will had specified family who honored me in life shall honor me in death. The lawyer stood at the podium. Edward Johnson left specific instructions for the reading of his will. To be done publicly as he wished. My mother's face tightened. To my granddaughter Susan Marie Johnson. My home, my savings, my legacy. She earned it with presents, not promises. To my grandson Jamie. A trust for your students and your future. You chose purpose over profit. The lawyer paused. To Patricia and Richard Johnson, $1 each. My mother gasped. My father stood. And a letter. The lawyer read it aloud. You taught me that love can be conditional. You measured my worth in assets, not afternoons. You planned my ending before I was gone. I'm simply returning the lesson. The money goes to those who loved me when I had nothing left to give but time. You wanted an inheritance. They inherited who I actually was. Silence. After the service, my mother approached. Her makeup was ruined. Tears cutting tracks through foundation. Please. Her voice broke. Not performed this time. Real. We're sorry. I looked at her. Really looked. I saw desperation. Shame. And finally, maybe the beginning of understanding. I'll think about it, I said. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But not total destruction either. Because Grandpa's final lesson wasn't about revenge. It was about choice. Was justice enough? Or does mercy hold more power? 6 months later, Grandpa's house became something he would have loved. I turned it into a resource center for families in crisis. People losing homes, escaping debt, rebuilding after loss. Jamie ran financial literacy workshops in the living room where we'd shared tea. The kitchen where Grandpa made Sunday soup now fed 30 people a week. My parents sent letters. 12 in total. I read none of them for the first 3 months. Then on a Sunday morning my mother appeared at the door. No Mercedes. No pearls. She wore jeans and carried cleaning supplies. I don't expect forgiveness, she said, voice steady but small. But I'd like to help. I studied her face. No performance. No calculation. Just exhaustion and something that looked like remorse. I handed her a mop. We worked in silence for 2 hours. She scrubbed floors. I organized donations. Not once did she mention the money. Not once did she ask for anything. As she was leaving, she paused. Did he really love me? Before. I thought about the photos in that box. Young Patricia with her father, laughing on a boat. Before the money mattered more than the moments. Yes, I said. But you stopped showing up. She nodded, eyes wet. I know. I didn't invite her back. But I didn't lock the door either. That night, I found Grandpa's final letter to me, tucked inside his favorite book. Susan, revenge is easy. Mercy is power. The money will give you options, but character will give you peace. They failed my test, yes. But you'll face one too. Will you become what hurt you? Or will you become what heals? Choose wisely. Choose yourself. And remember, the best inheritance isn't what you receive. It's what you refuse to pass on. Love, Grandpa. I folded the letter and placed it beside the check he'd written, the one that changed everything. He was right. The money was never the point. It was the mirror he held up to all of us. Some people saw their greed. I saw my worth. And in the end, that's the inheritance that actually mattered.